Hey, I'm Dr. Z and I'm a neurosurgeon. So that means long hours, early rounds, late nights, and everything in between. And through it all, I wear figs. They're comfortable when it counts and functional when I need them the most. So where do you wear your figs? On shift, on call, on the couch in the break room, listening to this podcast, wherever it is, they fit right in. And now listeners of this podcast can get 15% off their first order. Just head to wearfigs.com and use code FIGSRX at checkout. That's wearfigs.com, code FIGSRX.
Reggie, I just sold my car online.
Let's go, Grandpa. Wait, you did?
Yep, on Carvana. Just put in the license plate, answered a few questions, got an offer in minutes. Easier than setting up that new digital picture frame.
You don't say.
Yeah, they're even picking it up tomorrow. Talk about fast.
Wow, way to go. So, about that picture frame.
Forget about it. Until Carvana makes one, I'm not interested.
Car selling made easy. On
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Come to DSW for the shoes, stay for the fun. Because, let's be honest, if shoe shopping isn't fun, are you even doing it right? So go ahead, try something new. Try something different. Good different. Try something that feels like you. You know, the real you. And then definitely brag about it later. Because at DSW, you've got unlimited freedom to play. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or at DSW.com. Let us surprise you.
Hey, Trojan family, what's going on? Welcome back to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB network. Hope everyone is doing well. Defensive line coach has not been hired yet, so thought I'd get on here, give a little bit of intel, but also some names to watch for. I would expect this hire to happen quickly, but we all expected that with the defensive coordinator and other positions, and that was not the case. USC certainly has taken their time through this offseason and been very strategic in the way they have done things. So I feel like this will move fast, but that's just my opinion. We'll have to see it play through, obviously. So, but wanted to give you a couple names to chew on a little bit for those that have not maybe heard of any yet, or have not dove into any of their other where they get information. Obviously, I want to give it to you all right here, so you never have to go anywhere else. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here for the USC LAFB YouTube channel, or you can find all this information over on LAFBnetwork.com on our USC message board there. If you just want it quick and easy to digest, I have it there as well for you. You should check out both. It helps us out a ton, and I certainly do appreciate it. But 5 names for you. The first name, and who I ultimately believe will get the job, we've spoken about him before, right when Coach Henderson did announce he was leaving, is Zarnell Fitch, formerly of Texas Tech. This has been the hot name since even before Coach Henne officially announced he was leaving. It was announced that Fitch was not re-signing with Texas Tech. However you want to look into that, if that was Texas Tech deciding to move on from him, if it was him moving on from Texas Tech, there's been some rumors out there about maybe some off-the-field stuff. I don't have all the information on that, so I don't want to dive into that aspect of it. But regardless, he will not be back with Texas Tech. That came out before Coach Henderson announced he was officially leaving to go back to the NFL and join the Washington Commanders. And so that was already kind of stirring the pot. Like, oh, is this a sign that Henne's leaving and Fitch could be joining USC? The reason for that, aside from being a really good defensive line coach, he was the defensive line coach of the year voted on by Football Scoop just this past season. We know Texas Tech has had a lot of success. Part of that, they spent a lot of money, but they also performed. So if you're going to spend a lot and bring in top-tier talent, you want to see that top-tier talent actually perform at a high level, and they did that at Texas Tech. So aside from all that, Fitch also got his start at TCU with Coach Gary Patterson. He played at TCU and coached at TCU prior to joining Texas Tech. So I went through some of his past categories, so I won't go too deep into it, but rejoined TCU after playing for them in 2014 as the director of high school relations. And from 2016 until 2021, when Gary Patterson was relieved of his duties by TCU, he was their defensive line coach. After that, he joined Texas Tech from 2022 and was with them for one entirety contract until the end of this season when his contract expired. So this, again, barring any off-the-field stuff, which I don't know all the details on that, so I don't want to assume or any of that. So I'm going to leave that stuff alone. If that is deemed untrue or whatever the powers that be are okay with whatever that was, then I foresee him ultimately being the next defensive line coach. If there are other reasons or if they want to cast the net wider, then that's where I'll give you now a couple of other names. But quickly, and I'll probably dive into more of this if Fitch is ultimately the guy, I think when you look at some of the statistics of the Fitch era, really solid, I think, production at Texas Tech. Just this past season, you can see 7 Texas Tech defensive linemen recorded sacks. They accounted for 22 sacks out of the defense's total 41 sacks, and that does not include David Bailey. So if you include David Bailey, who's kind of that hybrid edge part of the defensive line, however you want to look at that, that obviously would skyrocket those numbers up. So I think a lot of production from that room, specifically looking at the interior, and you think of a guy like that, if he can enhance the quality of a Jakeem Stewart, of a Floyd Boucard, of a Jamian Winfield, of a Ja Jarrett, of some of the guys coming back, then we could see that quality going up that, we didn't quite have, at least in the sack department, the production from the interior that you would hope from kind of a talented room. Now, it was a young room last year. Obviously, you brought in Keyshawn Silver from the transfer portal. Ja Jarrett you brought in, but he was a young guy. You're trying to get more, in his endurance up and whatnot. So we'll see, regardless of who the coach is, how that can be enhanced. But certainly a good production at Tech, if that can transfer over to USC with what I believe is really top-tier talent, just a little bit younger, you could see production in that similar range combined then with the edges of Crawford and Shelby and so on and so forth, which would be in combination with obviously Sean Nua there on the defensive line as well. So good production. I think you watched Texas Tech last year. That was definitely one of their strengths, was the defensive line and the rushing game in particularly. And you watch, that Oregon game where Oregon, really dominated Texas Tech, but I would say the defensive line was definitely the bright spot against Oregon's offensive line, running game, and even some of the pass rush there. So, definitely one of the bright spots, I think, of the team overall of Texas Tech, which again makes him not re-signing there so interesting, whether that was his choice, their choice, the off the field stuff. That's a kind of, it's an interesting thing that I don't know everything about at this point. But like I said, as of now, all signs point to him being the guy for USC. We will see if that ends up coming to fruition. A couple other names for you. I don't think this will happen. I know a lot of fans want to see it, so I at least want to throw his name out there. Coach O. Ed Orgeron, right? The legend that is Ed O. Been out of football now for a little bit of time. We know about some of the reasons. Obviously, LSU kind of fell off. That's why they moved on, but also some of the indiscretions, if you will, off the field. And so would he be not necessarily welcome back at USC, but would he be deemed as the right fit to be welcomed back to USC? I think he would come back for sure if USC came calling. And, it'd be interesting to see if he has reached out, which I saw some rumors out there that maybe he has, but have those conversations reached Lincoln Riley, reached Jen Cohen, and whatnot, and what that would look like, reached Gary Patterson, obviously. But, if all that could be put, not even necessarily put aside, but if all that could be deemed as no issue, and it was just hey, is this the best football coach for our program? I think Coach O should certainly be looked at. But sometimes there's a reason why a guy's been out of coaching for a while and no other program has gone after him. But certainly it would be a blast to see him back on the sidelines, see him back recruiting, and see him back donning the Cardinal and gold. And certainly I think he would be a fun coach to have back, and obviously kind of rekindle some of the past history and tradition of USC that maybe some have felt has been lost since that era ended. So I don't foresee it happening, but hey, anytime there's an open position, you got to bring up Coach O's name because he is available right now.
The secret is out. With millions of younger-looking customers across the country, Plexiderm is one of the most highly sought-after products on the market. It visibly shrinks under eye bags and smooths out crow's feet in minutes, and the effects last up to 10 hours. Influencers love it, magazines feature it, and people just can't get enough of it. As a matter of fact, Elle Magazine gave it an Editor's Choice Award as Best Instant Wrinkle Filler for 2025. In as little as 10 minutes, Plexiderm reduces the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and those dreaded under-eye bags. So yes, you can look years younger in minutes, and the effects last for hours. No surgery, no gimmicks, just results. The best news, you can try Plexiderm for only $14.95. Plus, get free shipping. Don't wait. Order Plexiderm today. Visit plexiderm.com/special. That's plexiderm.com/special. Paid for by Sheer Science.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Another name I've seen rumored out there, I don't know if there's a lot of legs to it, but I've seen it out there, that's Vontrell King-Williams, who is Auburn's defensive line coach. Again, another very talented guy, but no real ties to USC, no real ties to the staff overall, so this one kind of feels out of left field. Again, I just kind of saw some rumors out there, so I want to do some digging on it, but he's been primarily a younger coach and then been with Auburn now the past 3 seasons. Started off in 23 as a defensive analyst, and then in 24 defensive tackles, and then this past year promoted to overall defensive line coach. Started at UTSA, went to Eastern Michigan, Liberty, back to Eastern Michigan, and then obviously now been with Auburn. So they've had some quality defensive lines. I think he's a quality coach. It'd be a fine hire if it were to be. This one just kind of felt out of left field, but wanted to throw it out there. Another name that I've kind of dug into and heard out there, and this would be a really solid hire if it does come to this, and that is Randall Joyner from Ole Miss, one of the kind of leftover staff, if you will, when Lane Kiffin left. And he was one of the guys that decided to stay and now is entering, I believe, his 5th year or maybe entering his 6th season with Ole Miss. But Ole Miss obviously had a really dominant defensive line, had a really solid defense overall, and a team that, obviously made it to the college football playoff, even amidst all their coaching changes and drama with Lane Kiffin. And part of that was because of the defensive line. So I think Randall Joyner, another name to know out there, certainly a really solid coach if it was someone that USC decided to pursue and potentially go after. Last name I'll kind of throw at you for now. We'll see if any others matriculate that I'll jump on later. And this is just a pure kind of throw out name because there is a connection with Gary Patterson, and that is Dan Sharp. So this probably would not excite many people, but he has a lot of history with Gary Patterson. He is currently the special teams coordinator for Louisiana Tech, which is very ironic considering the USC Trojans just hired Sam Carter, safeties coach from Louisiana Tech, who has ties to Gary Patterson. So, Dan Sharp is a guy that just goes way back. He's coached tight ends and defensive line, so kind of has that offense-defense versatility and verbiage. But he was with TCU as a graduate assistant in 88 to 90. Then he was the defensive ends coach for TCU in 91. Then he moved over to tight ends coach from 91 to 96. Then he went back to defensive ends coach in 97. Then he left for 2 years to go to Tulsa. Then he came back to TCU and with Gary Patterson now, and was the tight ends coach and the special teams coordinator from 2001 to 2014. And then from 2015 to 2021, the remainder of Gary Patterson's tenure, he moved over to defensive line coach and special teams coordinator. So, again, has that kind of versatility as a coach, if you will. 64 years old, so, a little longer in the tooth, but been around the game. So, I know this is not one that would excite fans, but just want to throw the name out there because we have seen since Gary Patterson has been hired, there has been a trend of, trying to obviously keep some of the USC staff in place. Obviously, that did not work with Coach Henne and Coach Belk. It has worked with Trevon Reed and others, and Sean Newham. But we've seen him add guys that he has been familiar with Paul Gonzalez having familiarity, with Sam Carter familiarity, and then obviously the link to Zarnell Fitch familiarity. But Dan Sharp is another one, would be familiar, very familiar, as many, many, many years coaching together. So there's some names at you. Let me know in the comments your thoughts, who you would want the most, maybe who you would want the least, maybe if there's some names out there you would love to see USC pursue that I did not list. I did not talk about any NFL guys. There could, that's where Coach Henne came from. Remember, that was a wild card. We were kind of waiting on that. Coach Henne, and then last year Rob Ryan, kind of two wild cards that no one saw coming. Could that happen this year, where all signs kind of point to Zarnell Fitch, and then out of nowhere they're kind of pull a name and like, oh, okay, I didn't see that coming. That's a solid hire. Could we see that? Perhaps. I will continue to do digging on that and seeing if I can find any names out there that maybe I've heard through the grapevine or heard maybe quietly that is not everyone's talking about. But these are the 5 right now that have kind of, outside of maybe Dan Sharp, that have kind of gotten some chatter out on the old airwaves. So wanted to at least bring that all to you. So let me know your thoughts on that. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And I appreciate you as always, family. And like we always say, fight on.
Hey, Trojan family, thank you so much for hanging out and watching the USC LAFB show. Before you go, let me tell you quickly about our friends over at Sleeper. Go right now, download the Sleeper app. It's the #1 sports app, not just for season-long fantasy, but they've got live pickers, they've got live stat updates, they've got a chat you can chat with other users, plus the daily pick'em, which is a blast, or daily fantasy, whatever you want to call it. You go and pick 2 to 8 players across any sports. If you're talking USC, go choose Jade Mayava in his next matchup. Pick more or less passing yards, more or less touchdowns. You stack those, and you can win real money. When you go to make your first deposit, make sure you use our promo code USC LAFB. You're going to get a match deposit up to $100. Put in $100, you get $100 free to play with from Sleeper. Put in $10, they'll match you that $10, so now you're sitting at $20 to play with. But also, right now, for any new users, no deposit required. You get $20 free entry. You can stack both. You can get the $20 for free. Go make a deposit. Use USC LAFB, and now you've got a bunch of free money to play with right there on the Sleeper app. Check it out, Trojan family, and when you do, tell them the guys at the USC LAFB sent you.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.